Good evening and welcome to the Buck Stops here. I'm Barkha Dutt. On the program tonight, there seems to be political turmoil everywhere. In Parliament, within the BJP over the Karnataka Chief Minister, and of course the Congress now has a new political challenge in the form of the controversy surrounding the CVC. And coming up on the Buck Stops here tonight, as we said, there seems to be political turmoil in every corner. On the program tonight, we look more closely at the political logjam in Parliament. The Congress has not managed to reach any sort of compromise with the opposition. Also, of course, the Congress has a new headache in the form of the controversy surrounding the CVC. But the BJP has some headaches of its own. Karnataka Chief Minister Yediyurappa has still not resigned. He met with BJP leaders this evening. What's happening in that space and more, all that's coming up. Like every night, of course, you can take part in our debate online. Our webpage is now open for your comments. It's ndtv.com/buckstops here. Also, if you'd like to tweet me instead, we'll run your tweets through the length of this program. My Twitter handle's @vdutt. The aftermath of the 2G scam is still being felt in different ways for the UPA. Today, the Supreme Court brought the focus on the appointment of the Chief Vigilance Commissioner, the CVC, asking whether somebody who is facing an allegation of corruption himself and an ongoing case was in a position to look at other corruption cases.
Another embarrassment for the centre. After the 2G spectrum scam, this morning the Supreme Court had some tough questions for the government over its appointment of the new Central Vigilance Commissioner, P.J. Thomas. The court said, how will he function in such a sensitive post? He is an accused in the palm oil import case. There's a charge sheet pending against him since 2000. You don't even promote someone when there's a charge sheet against them. There will be complaints before him. He won't be able to proceed. In every matter, he will be faced with an embarrassing situation. How will he function effectively as a CVC?
Having been appointed Central Vigilance Commissioner of the Central Vigilance Commission.
The Chief Justice's bench was hearing a case against the appointment of Thomas as CVC. But the government was determined to hold its own. So, when the Chief Justice of India asked the Attorney General, isn't impeccable integrity and eligibility criterion for such appointments? We want to settle this question once and for all. Attorney General G.E. Vahanvati replied, integrity is a given. If impeccable integrity becomes an eligibility criteria, then all judicial and constitutional appointments will be open to question.
There is a distinction in law between eligibility and suitability. It's a constitutional imperative, it's a given that everybody who is appointed under the Constitution to any post must have integrity. But if you make integrity an eligibility criterion, then almost every appointment can probably be challenged on the ground of an allegation.
Thomas is an accused in the 1992 palm oil case. The Kerala government imported 15,000 tons of palm oil from Malaysia for the public distribution service network. The deal struck was at a price higher than the market rates, and it resulted in a loss of 2.8 crores for the government. A report by the Vigilance and Anti-Corruption Bureau said Thomas, who was the State Food Secretary, played a pivotal role in the import of palm oil. Thomas appeared before the Vigilance Court in 2003 and obtained bail, but was never exonerated. He continues to be the 8th accused in the case. In 2 weeks' time, the matter will come up for hearing again in the Supreme Court. The court has already indicated that P.J. Thomas's continuance as the CVC is practically untenable, causing the government considerable embarrassment. The question is, as in the case of Ashok Chavan and A. Raja, will the government bite the bullet in this case as well? In New Delhi, Neha Khanna for NDTV.
Perhaps the only small silver lining for the government today was Dr. Subramanian Swamy's comments in court in response to the affidavit filed by the government when the Supreme Court, of course, last week had observed that perhaps something was being held back. Why had his petition not been responded to efficiently and quickly enough? Speaking to journalists and in court, Dr. Swamy made the point that he was satisfied with the Prime Minister's answer, but the Prime Minister had been let down by what he said was an incompetent law ministry and bureaucrats in his own office.
No Prime Minister or any sanctioning authority should be in doubt, because what comes out of the affidavit of the Prime Minister is that the bureaucracy sabotaged it. I would also like to say, on the basis of the affidavit, I can say there is no malafide on the part of the Prime Minister. So any demand for his resignation is not justified at the moment.
And very quickly, let's bring you up to speed with the growing controversy on the CVC story. Rahul, you've been tracking this story as well, and it links to a deeper controversy with allegations that the CVC actually tried to block the CAG report.
Yes, Barkha. This is the communication which happened between the Department of Telecom and the Law Ministry. On the 19th of July 2010, the Ministry received the performance audit report of the 2G allocation. Based on this, the Department of Telecom sent an opinion note to the Law Ministry asking, does the CAG have a right to challenge government policy? At that time, Mr. Thomas was the Telecom Secretary. Within 3 days, the Law Ministry returned the reply, and we have that document also, which made very clear that CAG and the CVC both do not have a right to scrutinize and challenge government policies. And the questions which are being asked now is that at a time when he was the Telecom Secretary, Mr. Thomas actively worked to ensure that the policies of the government, especially the Department of Telecom, were out of the purview or scrutiny of the CVC. And that is why there are several questions being asked, but right now the Congress is awaiting answers.
Thanks very much, Rahul. But the CVC may be the Congress's political challenge. The BJP is struggling with some problems of its own. It's dealing with this Karnataka compulsion. Everybody widely expected the Karnataka Chief Minister to have resigned by tonight. But here's what he said after meeting Arun Jaitley in Delhi.
I met Arun Jaitley and discussed in detail about Karnataka situation. Part of your discussion.
Well, you couldn't figure out too much of what he was saying there, but basically what we've understood is that he said he spoke to Mr. Jaitley about local elections in Karnataka, and he would not take any questions on the reports that he would be resigning soon. All right, so political turmoil in every political camp, it seems. Let's get into our debate tonight. Manish Tiwari, these observations by the Supreme Court today about the CVC, we remember that the BJP had very firmly opposed this appointment. This seems to have become the newest hot potato, although we've got Subramanian Swamy here, at least with regard to the Prime Minister. He's satisfied when it comes to the 2G scam, but the CVC is a brand new headache for your government.
Well, Barkha, since the Supreme Court is seized of the matter, I do not know as to how appropriate will it be to comment about it. You see, it's a fact that the CVC was charge-sheeted, but allow me to also point out that he was not named in the original FIR. No charges were framed against him. Subsequent to that charge sheet, he was appointed as Chief Secretary by the Left Democratic Front government. A CVC clearance was taken at that stage. Subsequently, when he was impaneled as a secretary in the government of India, a CVC clearance was taken. After that, Mr. Lindo, who is incidentally one of the petitioners before the Supreme Court, had certified to his integrity and competence and said that he is beyond reproach. So these are the facts as they stand.
But Manish,
and therefore, it would be best that in the light of these facts, the Supreme Court comes to the appropriate conclusions. And since they are seized of the matter, I don't think it will be appropriate to say more than this, than just point out the factual situation as it stands in the public domain.
But Manish, we also saw this interesting sparring of words between the Attorney General and the Chief Justice today, where the Attorney General spoke about how if impeccable integrity could not be, in a sense, an eligibility criteria every time. He virtually said if that were the case, then several judicial appointments would be questioned. Are we increasingly seeing a rather friction-filled standoff on this issue, on this spiraling, unraveling of the 2G scam between the judiciary and your party and your government?
Well, allow me to just point out two things, Barkha. First of all, I think Mr. Banvati has clarified these remarks. I think he spoke to your channel, and I was with Mr. Soli Sorabji on another channel half an hour back, and he said that possibly the Attorney General has been misquoted. As I understand it, the Attorney General very categorically said that impeccable integrity is a prerequisite for any constitutional appointment. So I think there is some kind of a gap in perception in terms of what he said and how it was perceived or understood.
All right, I'll come to Nirmala Sitharaman in just a second, but Dr. Swamy, if I can start with you. In a sense, the entire controversy around the Prime Minister's response began with your petition. Today, you seem to distinguish between the Prime Minister and his office.
Yes, I have from the very beginning been of the view that the Prime Minister should not resign because of what is happening in the Supreme Court. And that's because the nature of his position as a Prime Minister, he's not really a leader. He's a kind of person who has to accommodate a whole series of interests. He's already been described as a weak Prime Minister. Now, in that context, I said it, and that has been my consistent position. There's no new position at all. The issue is this, that the names of the CVC, the panel is prepared and put before the Appointments Committee. Wherever the panel prepared, it may be, of course, as always, everything is finally reached to the Cabinet through the Cabinet Secretary. But it's the Home Ministry which prepares the list. Now, in fact, that panel itself is, all the three names have something against them. And it was there is something wrong with the selection process of civil servants in our country, and the CVC has highlighted this, and I think the whole process of selection of candidates must be gone into.
But you know, this argument made by the Attorney General after his clarification also sounded reasonable, which was that a mere allegation can be brought against anybody. So if allegations became the basis to disqualify officers,
but this is not
that would perhaps apply across the board. This is
not an allegation, this is a charge sheet. Why it took such a long time to come to a conclusion on that charge sheet is a mystery itself. What we know is that Mr. Thomas was charge sheeted along with Karnataka, and he may be a pliable bureaucrat, I do not know. But for CVC's appointment, you need an impeccable integrity, and there are people like that. Maybe the civil political authority doesn't like such people as CVCs, but maybe for the chairman of the Indian Airlines or something like that, you can have somebody with a little quirk here and there. But for CVC, you must have somebody who has nothing
on the file against
nothing against it.
Dr. Lal, you were B.R. Lal, you were part of those who petitioned against this appointment.
That's right.
But you heard Manish actually talking about J.M. Lingdo, who was part of the same petition, making the point that even Mr. Lingdo did not question the personal integrity of Mr. Thomas. So in which case, what is the controversy?
Well, I don't know that position that he was talking to. I'm not a party to that. But I will react to basic issues that are involved and that have been raised by Mr. Tiwari. One thing is that his name does not appear in the FIR. Under the law, it is not necessary that everybody's name should appear in FIR. FIR is just a starting point. It is nothing more than that. It's no point at all that name does not occur or occurs in FIR. If it is there, it can be deleted. If it is not there, it can be included. It depends upon the evidence that comes. Number two, he said no charges were framed, but he was charge sheeted. Charge sheeted means that after charges, that presumes that charges have been framed. Mr. Tiwari is mistaken that charges were not framed. If charges were not framed, he could not have been charge sheeted. The very fact, he has been charge sheeted. Now charges have been framed. The case is lying for prosecution sanction. Prosecution sanction has not been given. Now, if prosecution sanction is not given for years, how can things move further? Right course would have been not to make him additional secretary at all, because empanelment at additional secretary's level also requires that man's integrity should be certified. And do we require for our public offices, do we require pick of the scam or do we require fairest of the fair? That is what we have to decide.
All right, I'm going to take that back to Manish in just a minute, but if I can bring in Nirmala Sitharaman and Soli Sorabji. Soli Sorabji, the Attorney General insists that he was misunderstood by the media when we seemed to initially understand his remarks to say impeccable integrity is not a necessary criteria. He later reframed this to say that what he meant was A, that an allegation can be levelled or a case can be filed against anybody. That does not necessarily mean that they're guilty. And B, if that criteria were to be applied, then several judicial appointments would also be suspect. What do you make of the exchange that has taken place between the Attorney General and the Chief Justice of India today?
Barka, I think you media love to say the exchange which took place. The Chief Justice asked him a question and the Attorney General made a submission. But that would be too colorless for you, so you must say boring words, this happened, that happened. He had expressed his prima facie view. How can a person be independent and effective? Then the Attorney General said, look, I'll place all the records before you, I'll place the files, and thereon he did make the submission. I wasn't too clear, he clarified it. But I think we are losing the real thrust of it. Thrust of it is, consider the importance of this position of CVC. Now the stature and credibility of an institution depends upon the image and, if I may say so, and the stature of the person who heads it. Now whether Thomas is charge-sheeted or charges are framed, incidentally that's not correct. No charges are framed against him in a court of law, but the by and by.
Yeah.
How can a person have that moral authority? Good governance is rooted in public confidence. Public perception that appointments which are made are absolutely clear. I mean, no sin. Without wanting to make any changes, biological anatomy, he should be like Caesar's wife, above suspicion. If there's a charge sheet, why didn't take proceedings to have the charge sheet box? So it looks very incongruous, to say the least, that a person who heads a post like this, which must have moral authority,
yes,
to make his decisions really in the public eye seem legitimate and fair. If that is missing, the rest is all, I must say so, debating, twiddly and twiddledum.
Okay.
This is a basic issue.
Okay, we will go back to Manish, but I just want to bring in Nirmala Sitharaman and Justice Santosh Hegde also, because our program tonight is looking at how both parties seem stuck with their own political headaches in a sense. And Nirmala Sitharaman, your position on the CVC is well known, but your headache seems to be the Karnataka Chief Minister. It was widely expected that he would be out by tonight, but he first sort of literally went missing, and now he is finally in Delhi. He's met with Arun Jaitley and he's saying these are all speculative reports, and the buzz is that he's just refusing to resign.
Well, as you all have been observing, the party is discussing with everybody concerned and understanding where the whole issue is. And of course the discussions are carrying on. We'll get to know something, and when there is a decision made, obviously the party will report back to you all. But the larger issue is of today the Chief Vigilance Commissioner's position being undermined because of the kind of objections which all of us are discussing. The leader of the opposition had raised the very same points which today we know that the Supreme Court is asking questions on. And therefore, the objections raised by the leader of opposition stands vindicated. And again, second is, the Congress cannot go on misleading us by saying, well, he is not really in his name is not in the FIR, he is only charge sheet. It is a charge sheet in which his name appears. Let us not forget and play around with the facts as though they don't exist. He is a person with a charge sheeted name. And second, when he was a secretary in telecom, he did, now there are reports clearly coming out in the media that he had obstructed investigation into the matter.
Yeah.
And therefore, I think we have to see, it's all very well for us to say, oh, BJP is no better position, you got your own problem. But I think all of us will have to stand up, at least in some issues, and say we have to work towards getting the system corrected. It's no point in scoring one another's, goals and then finally say, until you're very clean, we are not going to be able to speak. In which case, the Congress party can't even open its mouth for the last 60 years record. And for 5 years record, and if there are any misgivings about us, we can't. This is no way of working. I think we have to talk about things.
So you're
we have
saying...
to raise issues. We have to address them. And we have to be pointed fingers about each other's, shortcomings.
All right.
But that doesn't mean that we have to shut up till such a time the other party certifies us. And in the case of the CVC, certainly the government has got all its mathematics and explanations wrong.
Okay.
They have to
Two
get
different
back
points
to
raised by
restoring
you.
they have to restore the confidence of the people in the Vigilance Commission.
All right, ma'am. I've got your 2 points. You're basically saying we're trying to deal with the Yediyurappa issue, but that has nothing to do with the government's accountability.
That has nothing to do with it.
No, it has nothing to do with the government's accountability and the CVC. I've got that point. Manish Tiwari, there were many questions raised here on the CVC appointment. I know we lost you for a bit in that, but Soli Surabji also raised this particular point, that even if you disregard the exchange that took place between the Chief Justice and the Attorney General today, as the media making too much of dialogue that happens between the judge and the Attorney General, there still remains the moral issue surrounding the Central Chief Vigilance Commissioner that has come back in a sense to haunt your party.
Well, Barkha, I have the greatest respect for Mr. Soli Surabji, whom I consider to be one of the most eminent jurists in the country. But allow me to very respectfully point out that what is the material which is before the committee when it considers the appointment of a particular person? That material essentially are his annual confidential reports. And when you have the CVC repeatedly saying that there is no case against him, when repeatedly he is appointed to different positions, CVC clearance is given, what are you to conclude from all that? That is why I said that since the Supreme Court has seized the matter, government has put all the facts before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court wanted to scrutinize the files with regard to the appointment. All of them have been presented to the court. So I think the court, on the basis of all these facts, would arrive at an appropriate conclusion.
Okay.
But allow me to just respond to the diatribe of Nirmala Sitharaman. It's all very well to say that we are dealing with Karnataka. I think what the BJP really needs to do is strengthen its internal vigilance, because this country has been seeing the spectacle over the last 48 hours of a chief minister who's decided to dig his heels in. And what can you conclude from that? The only one conclusion that you can draw is that in the culture of the BJP, money talks and Yediyurappa walks.
All right, that's a good slogan. It sounds good, but we'll give Nirmala a chance to respond to it. I just want to separate the two issues. To Subramanian Swamy and B.R. Lal. In the case of your case, the court actually made a very interesting point today, saying that the press had overread into their comments on the Prime Minister and made it look like there were some kind of strictures. They made that very clear. Is that what's happening today in the exchange that we're reading into between the Attorney General and the Chief Justice on the CVC?
Well, when the question is raised in the form it was raised, I think there is a hint that the court is disturbed by the fact that a CVC is presently a charge-sheeted person, whether it's the court has framed the charges or the police have charge-sheeted him, it doesn't matter. But the fact is that he is there. So I think today's remarks of the Chief Justice is not just a simple question. It's a fundamental question which the Attorney General has to address.
And did you see, in a sense, when he spoke about judicial appointments, a kind of growing standoff that we're seeing somewhere between the judiciary and the government?
Well, certainly, because there has been in the last 6 years, at least the first 4 years after 2004, some really bad appointments in the judiciary. People who ought not to be even district magistrates have become judges. So I think there is definitely a concern in the judiciary that the accountability is very poor and the selection process is weak.
Okay, before I go to Justice Hegde, B.R. Lal, what would be your one specific counter to what Manish is saying, that all the clearances were gone through when it came to the appointment of Mr. Thomas?
I think I'll go to the procedure first. When a case is registered against an All India Service officer, information comes to Government of India. Since it is a charge-sheeted case and under prosecution of sanction, so information was available with Government of India. How it emanated from CVC, that nothing is pending, this by itself requires to be verified. How could this information go from CVC? This requires to be verified, CVC and CBI, or from Karnataka. CBI was not in the picture. The case was from Kerala. So, but CVC would know. Government of India itself would know, because prosecution sanction cases are with them. When it is with them, why it should happen at all? That is the question. Secondly, once there is a case, even suspicion, I would say the principle of that nobody is to be treated as guilty till he is convicted. This principle is in context of curbing the liberty of somebody, sending to jail and making punishment. Not giving post of CVC is not a punishment. So the principle does not hold good. Here the principle should be that once suspicion has been caused, it will linger on till such time.
But would you apply that to all public office? Because politicians would react by saying we can get a dozen vested interests. They could, and they will make this argument, filing cases against us.
In their case,
yeah.
I will answer in two parts. In politicians' case, once preliminary inquiry establishes that there is something against them, they should be answerable and they should just go. They don't have a title to the post till such time they are proved guilty. Because so long as they are in power, no case will be proved against them. Because
that's a very cynical sense of our system.
No, this is what is happening. It is not cynical, sir. In nowhere in the world, it will be in nowhere in the world anybody is retained once there is suspicion, once a case is registered. It is only in India.
Okay,
but just a minute. Yeah. I will come to public servants also. In case of public servants, the moment it happens, he will be placed under suspension. Actually, Mr. Thomas should have been under suspension since 2003 till the case is decided. He has no right to continue on government job. And thirdly, when his case came for empanelment before the government of India, this fact must have come. There is no reason that it will not.
Okay, let me take that back to Manish, but first Justice Hegde, who's been watching patiently. Justice Hegde, first, before I ask you about Karnataka and Mr. Yediyurappa and the Reddy brothers, your take, your understanding of what we've seen today between the Attorney General, the court, talking about, also concerns in judicial appointments, in a sense the Attorney General hitting back, but the debate seems to be divided into two perceptions. One, that even if there is suspicion, when it comes to an office of the CVC, that cannot be, that cannot be disregarded. It's a very special, particular kind of office, and so it cannot be disregarded. Your comments, sir, Justice Hegde.
If what is stated in the media is true, attributing the statement of Attorney General, I feel very sad. The fact that if there are some judges who are under suspicion and this rule that is thought to be applied by the Supreme Court applies to the judges, then proceed against them also. That doesn't make an excuse merely because some members of the judiciary are likely to be suspect, that others also should be suspect. I said no. The posts of CVC, posts of various other things are posts of some honor. And you have to choose people who are beyond all reasonable doubt. The question of their being convicted doesn't arise at all. And in a case where a charge sheet has been filed, to say that this is not the guilt is not yet proved. Let me go proceed a little later and find out. Supposing he is convicted tomorrow.
Yeah.
Will he justify that appointment? I don't think it can be justified at all. And merely because in the process of investigating, the court asks a question, can such a person be appointed? For a man of Attorney General status to say that there are also judges who are suspects.
I think what he was trying to say, Justice Hegde, just to be fair and going by the Attorney General's clarification, he later said that he'd been misunderstood by the media, and what he meant was integrity was always a given criteria for every appointment, not just the CVCs. However, an allegation alone was not the basis to decide that someone was not fit for a post. I think that's what he clarified.
I accept that explanation. I will accept that explanation. But that doesn't mean integrity is a criteria which is applicable to all appointments. But that doesn't mean that some judges who are the suspected integrity are appointed as judges. The CVC can be appointed on that basis.
Okay, Soli, do you share that view as well? Before I go back to the politicians on a panel, do you share that view?
Justice Hegde, completely. completely, except I want to tell Justice Hegde that Attorney General's submissions have rather been misinterpreted, and I don't think he meant that because some judges are suspect CVC should be appointed. Now let's forget that. Important thing is look at the nature of the post occupied by the CVC. He's not a president of some corporation of import-export or dealing with real estate. This is a position of so much importance that public confidence in its working is essential to good governance. Forget commerce or anyone.
I agree with you.
Sorry?
I 100% agree with you.
Good.
A person who's going to decide on prosecuting somebody or not should be not only above suspicion, but it should be far away from any doubt from anybody.
Okay, may I interrupt both of you?
Just one thing.
Yeah, Soli.
It's about Manish Tiwari, about confidential reports and all that. But please, my dear friend Manish Tiwari, there's a charge sheet. It's not a frivolous charge sheet. It's a serious charge sheet. Why didn't it take proceedings to have that quashed? In cases, FIRs are quashed. In some cases, charge sheets are quashed. With that charge sheet still hanging over him, how do you appoint it? Did you go with a torch in the whole of the country? Torch like a dhuna. Koi mila nahi dusra.
Manish, that's very bluntly put, and also another interesting point raised here, that if there is a conviction in this charge sheet, if it goes to its logical conclusion, what will the government do?
Well, Barkha, allow me to only state that insofar as the CVC is concerned, by the facts which are available in the public domain, even charges have not been framed against him. So therefore, with all due respect to all the eminent jurists and the learned former Supreme Court judge on this panel, may I respectfully submit that even a judicial application of mind on the charge sheet has not taken place. And subsequent to the charge sheet being filed, why is it that the CVC repeatedly, and not only in the instance of Congress governments, but even the Left Democratic Front government, as you know, that in Kerala the Congress and the LDF are very bitter adversaries, went ahead and appointed him as Chief Secretary.
That is a very valid point.
The government of the day, and the subsequent governments, did not find any merit in the charge sheet which has been framed. And then you obviously have the question of repeated CVC clearances and of course endorsements by one of the learned petitioners in the present petition, Mr. J.M. Lindo, who says that his integrity is beyond reproach and his competence is unquestionable. These are
Nirmala.
These are facts as they
stand. Nirmala and then Dr. Swamy.
I think what the Supreme Court wants to look at.
All right, Nirmala, go ahead.
Manish is a very trained senior lawyer. I'm not here to conflict with him on technical legalities. But by the same logic, no government thought it fit to quash the charge sheet or to request the court to say there's no merit in it and remove it. It is lingering. It is lingering, and it is a Damocles sword. Therefore, till such a time that either the case is completely withdrawn or quashed or found no merit completely, or he is found guilty, we cannot go on the basis of, he may be or may not be. No, not especially when you're talking about a position like the CVC.
Okay.
And moreover, when the leader of the opposition, Lok Sabha, in the committee meeting, says, would you want to take 24 hours to go find out if what I've said is true or not? The government was adamant. They did not even go to cross-check. So it's very well now to go on saying, no, there is no point. There are two governments who have been on and off. They have not taken the case further, which means there's no merit. Why do we want to go on that? It is a position which has to be above board.
All right.
And there is no way in which Congress can go on saying, with different interpretations of what is available, that he has been certified. He has not been certified as cleared by the court.
So you're saying that the government that appointed him Chief Secretary should have also gone to the court and said, we do not believe in this charge, please quash it. Subramanian Swamy.
Well, the interesting fact which he brought in the earlier stage and has been overlooked, the main problem why the matter didn't proceed is that the sanction to prosecute him was not given by the government. And it will be interesting that the CVC has guidelines that sanction to prosecute should not take more than 3 months. Now here apparently it's taken years. That should be investigated. Why the prosecution sanction for prosecution
took so long? Manish, quick response before we take a break.
May I come on a factual point, Barkha?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, insofar as my understanding goes, apparently there was a stay on the proceedings given by the Supreme Court itself. So therefore, if sanction was not granted, possibly the stay may have weighed with the government. I am only talking from the facts as they are available in the public space. I have no personal knowledge of it. But insofar as I understand that there was a stay, and possibly by the apex court of the country.
I can hear Soli trying to speak, and then I'll come to you, Dr. Lal. Soli, go ahead.
I don't think, Manish, I don't think you are properly informed.
That's right.
There was no stay which would prevent giving of a sanction.
Yes.
I don't think that's correct. You better check.
Okay, all right. On that note, we're going to take a break. We are going to take a break.
I said, my information is based upon what is available in the public.
All right, a quick break. After that, we haven't spoken about Karnataka enough. Yes, one wrong doesn't justify the other. It doesn't prevent the Congress from being put on the mat. But what about the BJP? One standard for the Congress, one standard for the BJP. We'll look at that after the break. And also, why is the BJP and the opposition so stuck on the JPC when it comes to the 2G scam? That's on the other side. Welcome back to the Buck Stops here. We've discussed threadbare the issue of the CVC. There seems to be consensus on this panel that the government's in a bit of a hot seat. In fact, that might be an understatement when it comes to this particular controversial appointment. But now to turn our focus on some of the other political storms brewing both in Parliament as well as in Karnataka. Justice Hegde, if I can start with you first, since you are the Lok Ayukt of Karnataka. We're seeing this peculiar situation playing out where the Chief Minister is virtually defiant, refusing to exit on the basis of the land scam allegations. But the story that's not being said overtly is also about the mining brothers and how Mr. Yediyurappa has said, if I go down, so should they. You've been taking them on. What do you make of what's happening in your state, sir?
Well, Rekha, it is purely a political affair, and since I'm holding a public office, I don't think it's very fair for me to comment on that.
That's fair enough. But do you believe...
But may I just clarify one thing about the earlier issue?
Yes, go ahead.
I heard many of the speakers and the panelists speaking about the sanction or lack of sanction in the prevention of corruption case. There are 4 judgments of the Supreme Court pertaining to Chief Ministers of 4 states: Rajendra Singh Battal, Prakash Singh Badal, Karnakaran, and Lalu Yadav, where they have said sanction to prosecute under Section 19 of the Prevention of Corruption Act is automatic and nobody has any discretion, because the offences under the Prevention of Corruption Act, so far as a public servant is concerned, has nothing to do with the discharge of his official duty.
Okay, that's an important clarification, but I do want to come back to the focus of Karnataka. I know you don't want to make a political comment, but what you've seen thus far on both the land scam allegations and mining, of course, you've been very public on, but how serious are the land scam allegations?
From the complaint that I have received and from what I have examined till now, they are very, very serious. But today, the government has appointed a retired High Court judge to exclusively look into the mining scam, the denotification scam from 1995 to 2010. I don't know how far it affects the pending inquiry before me. By tomorrow, I will be examining that. If the idea is to take it away from me, I have no difficulty, because I'm not very keen on
do you think the idea is to take it away from you? Do you suspect that?
What do you think, Barkha? When the matter is already pending before me, what else could it be?
So, Nirmala Sitharaman, the BJP also has some things to answer for. I'm not using one to justify the other, but you have your Lok Ayukt suggesting here that there is an attempt to take away a pending inquiry that is under him and hand it over to another judge.
Well, with due respects to the Lok Ayukta, I'll certainly not comment on that. But as regards the political decision which the party has to take, we'll certainly, last 3-4 days have been spent on it, and the party is definitely looking into it in all its seriousness and comprehensively. They will take a call on it. You'll get to know about it sooner.
Okay. Soli, are you concerned that Justice Hegde is suggesting, in a sense, that an inquiry may be taken away from him when it comes to the land scam? And are we seeing, in a sense, a dishonesty in this discourse? Because the BJP privately understands this. It understands that it needs to lose this chief minister to be able to front foot on the issue of the 2G scam with the UPA.
Oh, but too many assumptions, too many assumptions. First of all, I haven't seen the terms of reference of the Judicial Commission. We'll have to see that. And I won't say that the idea was to take it away from the Lok Ayukt till I've seen it. Now, I don't think the Lok Ayukt really meant it. He said, Barka, what do you think? And he left it at that.
I think that was quite a little bit of a hint. Subramanian Swamy, what did you think? About Justice Hegde saying, well, what do you think? I have an inquiry. Maybe they try to take it away from me. I don't know.
Well, who's they? I mean,
but is there a double speak in this debate?
Well, certainly. You see, the problem, in some sense, I have I think Yediyurappa's anguish is understandable, because about 6 months ago he removed corrupt ministers who owed allegiance to the Reddy brothers.
Yeah.
The central party forced him to take them back and then accommodate. And they had gone to Goa and all the 5-star hotels with their MLAs. And so now, in a sense, I would say his crimes are like a traffic light comparison to the 2G scam. But the whole atmosphere today, there is a public revolt against corruption.
So
I think the BJP should set an example.
But then what happens to the Reddy brothers?
Well, they have to deal with them much more than even Yediyurappa.
And that's what, in a sense, the whole focus, Manish, is on in Yediyurappa. I'm sure you'd like to come in here because it's shifted the focus a little bit. Go ahead, Manish, with your thoughts.
Well, I think, Barka, my views and the views of the Congress party are very well known. From 2008, you've been seeing this unending, unremitting and continuing saga of corruption in Karnataka. And to paraphrase what Mr. Prakash Karat has said, that possibly the Chief Minister of Karnataka, sits at the helm or the apex of the mining mafia incorporated. And the reason why Mr. Yediyurappa and before that Mr. Janardhan Reddy and his cohorts are not going away is because their pernicious tentacles go right to the top of the BJP central leadership. I do not want to make a comment about an individual, but the relationship of top BJP leaders with Mr. Janardhan Reddy and the Bellary brothers is just too well documented, and it's all out in the public space. And you've been repeatedly seeing over the last 4 days that the BJP central leadership has been issuing public statements attributed to sources that we want him to go.
Yeah.
But he's dug his heels in, so that only leads to 2 conclusions. The first conclusion is that they're playing a Dr. Jekyll and a Mr. Hyde. They are saying one thing from here, but wanting Mr. Yediyurappa, to just stay the course. And the second is what I said earlier, that possibly in the culture of the BJP, money talks and the tainted walk.
Nirmala, quick response to that?
In fact, to be fair, a quick response is not what I should be giving to Manish, who has a record of having sent people abroad, Kothrochi, Ajit Jogi, and a whole lot of things. I think Manish enjoys talking about BJP shamelessly. Sorry for the word, I'm not really being mean to him, but it has become now a habit for him to constantly refer to BJP. But the matter of fact, Congress cannot speak about corruption. Manish, just hold on. You've had your time, just hold on. I think it is now high time. All of us will have to look at corruption in high places with a very open mind. And that is where I think the government in Karnataka has referred the matter to the Lok Ayukta, where Justice Santosh Hegde is definitely looking into the mining related matter, and it was Karnataka government which banned the export of iron ore and also suggested that the union government should do it.
Fair enough.
As regards the land scam, as you have heard from Justice himself, there is an inquiry which is going to go through. All of us will talk about it, and the law and justice will all find its way. And Manish can keep picking holes at BJP, but we can never match Congress party's record in corruption.
Okay.
Especially look at the way the Congress party supports. Let me just finish.
Okay, we've got to hurry up. We're ending the show and we still haven't looked at the JPC.
1,76,000 crores cannot be matched at all.
Okay.
And above all, let's not always spend time on tu me me.
Okay, that's what we're doing in a prolonged way right now.
Ma'am,
I've got to interrupt you here.
Allow me a quick response.
Manish, 10 seconds, because I've got to look at one last issue.
Yeah, allow me a quick response. I think Nirmala Sitharaman wasn't possibly around, when the NDA was ruling. Otherwise, from Bangaru Lakshman to the coffin scam,
you can
to the land given to the RSS,
No, I have a suggestion.
I have
a suggestion. Whatever allegations they make against anybody, against any let all be inquired. Wholesale, whether it is BJP or Congress, will make.
Otherwise, we're going to lose this program in that little contrarian debate. You both made your points. I want to look at the last controversy that has occupied our headlines today. The Congress made an offer of multiple agencies being attached to the Public Accounts Committee that's looking at the 2G scam. Soli Surabji, is that a proposal that the opposition should have accepted? Why do you believe they're still so stuck on the JPC?
Well, actually, if you ask me, I don't even like JPC.
Why not?
There should be really another commission or committee of inquiry headed by a retired Supreme Court judge with other people. Having said that, what suggestion to my mind is not really equivalent to a JPC, but I can't really express a definite opinion because I don't know what the political compulsions of the political parties are.
Okay. Justice Hegde, JPC or an independent committee headed by a judge? I mean, that's one of the petitions in court asking for independent monitoring by the Supreme Court.
I agree with Soli Sarabji, but minus Justice Santosh Hegde.
Recusing himself this time. All right. Nirmala Sitharaman, the argument made in favor of the JPC was that you needed investigative powers. Now the government offers you multiple agencies. Why do you not accept that particular proposal?
See, Barka, when the matter goes to the Supreme Court, the criminal side of it and other things will be taken care of. But when a PAC has already got enough on its hand, it is not going to be possible for them to look at a scandal of this magnitude. The reason why one is asking for JPC is at least it will be in a position to, summon the ministers, look at ways and means of reforming the system, and who better than the legislatures to do it.
Okay.
Unless we do this through the JPC and the recommendations come through, we take it seriously.
I've got to
interrupt
you because I have literally 10 seconds left for everybody. Manish, go ahead.
We cannot plug the loopholes.
Okay, Manish, go ahead. Manish. How are you going to break this deadlock in Parliament?
Very senior leader of the Bharatiya Janata Party was telling me yesterday in Parliament that he cannot understand as to why his party is asking for a JPC, because the PAC has a very wide remit, including, if it wants, with the permission of the Speaker, to even summon ministers. So therefore, with that wider remit, with that kind of investigative powers which the government is prepared to give to it, I do not understand as to what is the reluctance. You will have a quasi-Supreme Court monitored investigation going on. You will have a PAC which will have all the attention.
Okay, I've got to interrupt you also now, Manish.
Headed by none other than the most venerable.
One line. Yes, one line.
I've got two guests waiting.
Just one line.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't know that Manish also has become a spokesperson for the BJP, quoting some senior BJP spokesperson and official.
I'm only quoting back to you what I heard from one of your leaders.
Thank you, Manish.
Okay. Dr. Bialal. JPC?
Before I come to JPC, let me say...
No, sir, no time, just JPC.
Okay, if at all JPC is formed, let them both promise that there will be no tutu meme. Now, coming to JPC will only bring facts which are already in the public domain. It is now the investigation that is required.
So too late for a JPC?
Yes, investigation not by CBI, which is or by any organization that is with the government. It should be independent organization. I have been agitating for that since 1996.
Okay, Subramanian Swamy.
Yes, the public mood is not for any more discussion, but for prosecution.
And therefore,
either it should be, the CBI should be asked to go and start the
actual
prosecution. Yeah, they should file complaint in the court, or I will do it anyway, because now I've got that.
So watch out for your next petition, basically.
Yes, that's right.
All right, Manish, I should allow you a 10 seconds on that. The consensus on this panel seems to be not a JPC, not even the PAC. Take it to an independent commission or let the CBI proceed with prosecution. Quickly on that.
I think there is no difficulty with that. The CBI is already seized to the matter.
But CBI not under the government.
Supreme Court, and if
my condition would be CBI not under the government.
So we need
want a judicial inquiry. I think the government in its wisdom will definitely consider it.
All right, on that note, I think it is fair to say that we've reached a consensus, and perhaps that is the need of the hour, an independent commission. Subramanian Swamy, B.R. Lal, Manish Tiwari, Nirmala Sitaraman, Soli Surabji and Justice Hegde. Thank you for your time on the Buck Stops here tonight. We'll call it a day. We'll see you tomorrow night at 10. Good evening and thanks for watching.